Wow, this is some fine welcome we get to my first ever visit to one of the best bass lakes in the entire United States. This is Lake Guntersville. I've never been here before. So we roll in here, and right behind us rolls in one of the hardest cold fronts of the entire winter. In fact, right here at Scottsboro, Alabama, on the shores of Guntersville, they're supposed to break their all-time record low temperature for the date tonight. But we're gonna troop out there anyway and do our best to show you a little bass fishing. This is Fox Sports Outdoors.
It's time now for your weekly fishing reports and real-time outdoor news from the Southwest region. This is Fox Sports Outdoors Southwest.
The fame and notoriety of the lake you see just over my right shoulder is every bit up on par with the great ones like Lake Fork in Texas and El Salto in Mexico and Okeechobee down in Florida. This is famous Lake Guntersville, Alabama. It's been just over a year ago that Randy Howell came charging back from 11th place to win the Bassmasters Classic in 2014 on these very waters with a gigantic sack of bass. There are big ones and there are lots of bass in this lake. We're gonna go out today and do a little exploring around on my first ever visit to beautiful Lake Guntersville, and under some of the most challenging conditions you can possibly imagine, and I'll explain that as we go along. And while we're out fishing on Guntersville for some bass today, we're taking you around your local region for some fishing reports from our team of insider reporters from lakes, rivers, and bays right in your backyard. Hey, you're in for a lot of fun in the coming half hour, but right now we get it all started at the FSN studios with your weekend planner.
The Salooner tables are predicting the top game fish activity over the weekend to take place on Saturday. Peak times should begin in the morning at 4:47 and in the afternoon at 5:15. Expect the sun to rise at 7:03 and set at 7:54. And night skies will feature a moon that is 65% illuminated. We're coming right back with all the current freshwater and coastal fishing information from around the area. Plus, Bassmaster angler Ott Defoe joins us for this week's Ask the Pro feature.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Tracker Boats. It's more than just a boat, it's a tracker. By Costa Sunglasses, see what's out there. By Mercury Marine, official outboard of Fox Sports Outdoors. And by Lowrance Electronics. Find, navigate, dominate.
There, got one. I don't think he's much of a fish. Nope. Got a big weed around him. And there's my first, well actually it's my second Guntersville bass. I'll show you the crazy first one. That's just a little buck bass up here getting ready to spawn in some, I think they call it primrose, some little dollar-shaped plants back up in here. Let me give you a little information about Guntersville. Again, it's my first time here, so I'm having to learn about this place. It's a giant lake, 67,000 acres, 76 miles long, that runs in the far northern part of Alabama, east of Huntsville, actually established right after the American Revolution. So this is an old place around here. It's certainly one of the top bass lakes in the country, set in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Water here is a kind of a stained off color. It's not what I would call clear, and it's certainly not muddy or murky. Runs all back up in a bunch of little fingers off the Tennessee River. Now the Tennessee River chain is just unbelievable. It's got great lakes like Kentucky Lake and Pickwick, but this one is a real flat lake. You've got the main Tennessee River channel running through the middle of it, and as soon as you get out of the channel, you're in shallow water. And by shallow, I mean 6 to 10 feet deep. That's most of the lake. So it's not like some of the other Tennessee River lakes that's got a lot of real sharp, big, deep ledges on it. This thing's pretty shallow, flat lake, and because of that, it's loaded with grass beds. All kinds of grass, primarily hydrilla. So I'm going to talk to you about the grass, the vegetation, and how you fish it, and this is why you come here. But right now, let's get you started with some fishing and lake reports from your area.
Fishing has been tough on our water, but we are hitting a few trout and a few nice redfish. Pretty good red right here. We've been throwing the red color, and we've been throwing the LSU, the purple chartreuse. I tell you what, saltwater fishing along the whole Louisiana coast will be picking up here shortly. So I'll tell you what, friends, get out on the water, have a great time. Right now we're gonna turn it over to old Cajunville. We're gonna see what's going on in the freshwater scene.
Thanks, Captain Kevin. I tell you what, friends, Cajunville here with your freshwater report. It hadn't been that good this particular week. We have checked just about everywhere. High, muddy water, just about everywhere. The northern part of Toledo Bend still very high, still very muddy. Matter of fact, certain of my friends that live up there, they said it's crazy. The water's still 2 or 3 foot up into their yard. I tell you what, over on the Red River, I call my buddies that fish the Red River. They fish it almost every weekend. They said, Phil, it's not only red, it's bad red, it's thick, it's muddy. Do not come to the Red River. So I tell you what, Calcasieu River started to clear up a hair this week. Talked to several of the anglers that went out there. They were catching some pretty good bass. They were catching them on spinner baits and crankbaits. The Sabine River, different story. They're pouring water out of Toledo Bend right now. Be very cautious if you go anywhere around the Sabine River. As a whole, friends, right now, freshwater fishing's not all that good across the state, but there is areas where they are hitting real good, and I'll talk about those next week.
There's one. Can you jump at all? Got him right in the corner of the mouth. Oh, there's a fatty right there. There's a little Guntersville chunk right there. That one hit a lipless rattling crankbait right there. Well, we're back out on what's turned into be a really windy, kind of a cold front day here on Guntersville. But we got a little action going right there. Back that one goes. This lake is famous for its grass bed fishing. As I mentioned, the Tennessee River channel's deep, but it comes up on those flats on the edges. It stays shallow. That water stays warm a long time during the year, and it lets all that aquatic vegetation grow up. Here's the deal though. Early in the season, actually during the winter time, all those grass beds die out. The water gets too cold and they just don't grow very well. The warmer it gets, the longer it goes into the summer, those grass beds blossom and grow all the way almost to the surface, or to the surface in a lot of areas. That's where you get your good topwater frog fishing. We're here early in the springtime. Water's just warming up. The fish are coming up in pre-spawn. What I'm doing right now, and what you have to do early in the spring, is search for this grass. It grows in little patches. When you find a little patch, you're gonna find bass. A lipless rattling crankbait is just a great way to do it. I've got 2 sizes tied on today. That's a little small size right there. And all I'm doing is making big, long casts, letting it go down a little bit with my rod tip down to the water, and I'm feeling for that grass. When you feel it, you kind of lift that rod tip up a little bit, kind of pop it through that grass, and a lot of times that's where you're going to get a bite. Time now for more fishing reports.
Hi folks, this week's Lone Star Lakes is brought to you by the Legend of Lake Fork Big Bass Tournament, paying 8 places each hour each day, and with 5 legend boats up for grabs. All boats, all makes, all models are welcome. Now we're here at Cedar Creek, and the lake has experienced a phenomenal rise in just a few weeks due to the late winter precipitation, from over 8 feet low to completely full. As a result, some of the north end areas that were literally cow pastures just a few weeks ago are now flooded with plenty of water, but there's a lot of flooded brush that grew up and it scattered the bass. So your bass fishermen need to look to the boat docks. The bass will spawn in between the docks on the flats, and then they'll use the docks for cover when they're not on the beds. So fish around the docks and those flats in between with your jerk baits, your soft plastic jerk baits, jigs, lizards, and spinner baits. Crappie fishermen on Cedar Creek will want to look to the 175 bridges. There's good parking and good bank access there, and the crappie are moving up the creeks to spawn. That's this week's Lone Star Lakes, brought to you by the Legend of Lake Fork Big Bass Tournament, May 15, 16, and 17. Let's check in with Mr. Bill Olson. He's on the coast.
Hi folks, this week's report is brought to you by Port Aransas on Mustang Island, the fishing capital of Texas, where anglers enjoy pristine bays, estuaries, 18 miles of surf, and the deep blue waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Plus the local restaurants will even cook your catch come sundown. Come fish and play Texas Island style. For more information, visit portaransas.org. Well, progress is being made as we move into the 4th month of the year with warmer daytime and nighttime temperatures. Even when a cool front does blow through, the impact is minimal and short-lived. The biggest challenge for most anglers is dealing with wind or wind direction. Having a plan with options to deal with the direction of the wind will pay dividends. When strong southerly or southeasterly winds blow, look for fish to move into the back lakes and marsh areas on flooding tides. If the winds turn to the north, then set up around the mouth of those marsh drains as tides fall out. At the jetties, black drum, puppy drum, sheep's head, redfish, and even some Spanish mackerel are showing up. Live and fresh dead shrimp are good options. Upper coast anglers continue to fish the south end of the bays as the north ends are still fairly fresh due to the runoff from recent rains. Mid-coast anglers are hitting the flats on windy days. On light wind days, mid-bay reefs, edge of the intracoastal waterway, and oil well platforms are holding fish. Also fish the spoil islands along the Corpus Christi Ship Channel, Gulf connecting passes, and the ICW. Now on the lower coast at Port Mansfield, fish are moving north from East Cut on their way to the Land Cut. Out of Port Isabel, south of Cullens, as well as Mexiquita Flats, have given up good trout and redfish on a variety of live and artificial baits. South Bay is also starting to turn on. This weekend, both Saturday and Sunday have a single tide schedule of 1 high and 1 low tide each day. I'm Bill Olson, and I'll see you on the coast.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Right stuff, low price, every day. By Lew's, setting a new standard of fishing performance. Feel the difference. By Gene LaRue and Bobby Garland Lures. With our baits, a good day of fishing is in the bag. And by Stren Fishing Lines, the standard of dependability.
There's one. Oh, it's not a big one. He's not even fighting. I'm going to ski him in. All right, well, we got some fish working anyway. Let's talk a little bit about gear. If you're planning a trip to Guntersville, if you've never been here like me, this is my first trip. These fish are the first Guntersville bass I've ever caught. Catching buck bass today, early in the springtime. They're moving up shallow first and fishing shallow water. But you're gonna need several things if you're coming here. One thing you're gonna need is a net because there are some giant bass in here. Second thing you're gonna need is a great crankbait rod. This is the brand new Lew's David Fritz Perfect Crankbait Speed Stick. It is the best crankbait rod I've ever thrown. It feels great. It's got the perfect action, perfect handle, perfect size, perfect length. 7.5 foot is the length you want. Look for that at your tackle store or on the Lew's website. You need a reel that will cast a long way. I'm using the Lew's Speed Spool BB1 Pro Series reel. It's got the magnetic cast control here on the outside of the reel. That's the improvement of the BB1 Pros over the original BB1 series. They've got a narrow spool and a wide spool, so you can do either one, a BB2 or a BB1. But they are the absolute longest casting bait cast reel I've ever thrown as well. Big, long cast with these crankbaits, cover a lot of water real quick. The line, one of two things, either Stren Original, we'll show you what the package looks like here, or Stren Fluorocast. You want to go with a Fluorocast in the clear water. You get in a little more stained, a little murky water, a little thicker grass, you can go with that Stren Original. Clear blue fluorescent is the color I like, so you can see your strikes real well. Time for more fishing reports.
Hey, we're at that point of time here in the spring in Oklahoma that a couple of things are pretty typical for right now. One is the fact you can catch your fish shallow, bass and crappie, 2 foot of water or less, especially if you have color to that water. The other thing is, with the thunderstorms rolling in and out like they do this time of year, good chances are that you're gonna have your lake coming up sometimes, going down on others. When they're coming up, the challenge is always which bushes to fish, how do you approach them? Who better to ask that than pro angler Tommy Biffle?
We're out here on Fort Gibson and gonna tell you a little bit about flipping and pitching. You know, the water is up about 5 or 6 feet right now, and early in the spring, you know, kind of key on buck bushes. Buck bushes, rule of thumb, is what they like to get in. As the summer goes on or the spring goes on, they spawn. They seem to migrate towards the willows during the summer. So never think they're in both of them. They're usually in one or the other and not in both. But You know, just let the fish go out and fish, and if you get 3 or 4 bites in buck bushes and you flip a bunch of willows, you know, they're in the buck bushes. Then you just key on those buck bushes. When I'm flipping a buck bush, I always pitch right to the center, right where the tree goes down to the bottom. You know, if the buck bush is big and full and it's round over here, but you can tell that base of that tree is over here, I flip over there where the base is. That fish is always sitting right by the base where it goes to the ground.
Hey, right bushes or not, even Tommy Biffle knows you can't catch them if you don't go.
Oh, I got one on. Decent fish right here. Look at that. There's a decent Guntersville bass for you right there. Caught him on a biffle bug. How about that? There's some of that eel grass right there. It's real ribbony, thin, stringy kind of grass. You can actually fish in it, and the fish do live in it. Mike Gary, my guide buddy, kind of tipped me off to this little spot right here, and you would never know it by the look of it. It's just an ugly, smooth bank up and down here, but there's a bunch of little ridges that run up and down, and each one of them's got a little bit of that eel grass on it. Well, let me give you a little piece of information here. If you want to plan a trip here, book a guide trip, then Mike Gary's your guy. He's been guiding on this lake for 35 years, runs a very professional guide service, has several guys guiding for him, so you can bring a big group or a small group, anything in between. He's had some really unbelievable days. In fact, just a couple of days before we got here, he had 3 fish, his clients did, over 9 pounds in one day. He's got a great website. You can look him up right there at the information you see on your screen. Back to Lake Guntersville, Alabama, right after this.
Fox Sports Outdoors is brought to you by Exide AGM Marine Batteries. Starts like new, stays like new longer. By Motor Guide Trolling Motors. Introducing the XI5 for ultimate boat control. By Fort Worth Nissan. Fox Sports Outdoors is powered by Fort Worth Nissan. And by Nitro Performance Fishing Boats. Champions aren't born, they're made.
Welcome back, everyone. It's time for the Ask the Pro feature, where viewers get insider tips from top anglers. This week's question is from Ramon, who asks, where do bass go after the spawn? For the answer, we checked with Bassmaster Elite Angler Ott Defoe.
They really have 2 options. Some fish stay shallow, and they're going to stay up there around any kind of bait fish. A lot of times, as soon as the bass are done spawning, shad, herring, bluegill, a lot of other things start to spawn. So the fish that stay shallow, that's where they're going to be. On other lakes, other systems, as soon as those fish get done, their next stop is on a ledge, on a point, somewhere on a deep structure. And a lot of times, as soon as they get done spawning, will actually be the deepest they get the whole year. The lakes where I live in East Tennessee are pretty famous for that. We will catch bass, you know, 30 to 50 feet deep the week after they finish spawning. So it really depends on the system you're fishing, and fish always split up. Some stay shallow, some go deep.
Thanks, Ott. If you need help from one of the pros, visit foxsportsoutdoors.com and follow the Ask the Pro link to submit a question. Now let's see who wins a new pair of sunglasses on the Costa Catch of the Week.
This was a brutal, brutal day to be out there fishing. Again, we were very blessed to be able to catch the few fish that we did show you. We caught them on several different baits. We'll show those to you in just a moment. First up though, somebody wins a free pair of Costa sunglasses, the Costa Catch of the Week contest. He is Russell Poster of Tyler, Texas, showing off his 9-pound, 7-ounce largemouth bass he caught at Lake Gilmer in East Texas. And here's a little bonus for you. There's another big one from the same lake. David Turbyville of Keller, Texas is showing an 8-pound, 1-ounce largemouth bass, also from Lake Gilmer. This one's not the winner, but it's a good one nonetheless. If you'd like a chance to win your very own pair of Costas, all you have to do is go to our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com, click in the Costa Catch of the Week area on the right side of the front page, fill out the form, send us your photo. You could be our next winner. You can see all of the Costa frame and lens styles. Again, go back to the front page of our website at foxsportsoutdoors.com, click on the Costa logo, and you can see all the great Costa products there, including the new frame style that I was wearing on this week's episode called Cortez. Next up on the Academy Right Stuff, I've got to say something about the Exide AGM batteries I just installed in my Nitro Z8 boat. I could not do what I do as long and hard as we go at it out there on the lake without these batteries. These are brand new technology. What you have to remember is 3 letters, AGM. M. Now don't worry about what that stands for, but when you go to your retailer and look for batteries, ask for the Exide AGM batteries. They're available at Academy Sports and Outdoors, and here's the deal. They will run longer than any other battery on the market. They'll charge up quicker. They have a longer lifespan. You can mount them on their side or upright, either way, because they won't spill. They're maintenance free, they're vibration resistant, everything you could possibly want in the best battery ever developed. It's the Exide AGM battery. I am so impressed with them out in that 30-mile-an-hour wind all day long today, and they held up, and I've still got plenty of power to spare. Now, we already showed you the rods, reels, line that you need if you're coming to Guntersville, but here are some baits that will work pretty much year-round on this lake. Beginning on the left side of your frame, those are lipless rattling crankbaits, 2 different sizes, both those colors will work. In the middle of your frame is the Jean LaRue Biffle Bug, rigged, Texas rigged, and you need to stick a toothpick in that weight and peg it down against the bait so it'll go down through this grass. The right-hand side of your frame, there is a jerkbait, that's a suspending jerkbait, and under that is the Jean LaRue Salt Flicker. It's a soft plastic jerkbait fished around the edges of these grass beds. Hey, I invented a saying. It goes like this: life is messy, nobody gets out clean. Now here's what I mean by that. If you're trying to live your life fully under control, everything going right, everything going just the way you want it to, you are setting yourself up for some big disappointments because you have misplaced expectations. This is an imperfect world we live in, and nobody does everything right. In fact, there was only one man that ever did that, and he lived a couple of thousand years ago. So, the lesson you and I can learn, and the best we can do, is this. You get up every day, you do the very best you can. You try to learn from the mistakes you made yesterday and try very hard not to make those same mistakes again. Each day is brand new. Each day you and I get a do-over, and that's the great news, and that's the best you and I can expect. Hey, I hope you enjoyed our trip to beautiful Lake Guntersville in North Alabama. I want to apologize and say I'm sorry we didn't catch more and bigger fish on the show, but I really should just be thankful for what we caught, because once again, it was one of the most brutal days on the water that I have spent in several years for a lot of reasons. Hey, don't forget to join us for next week's episode. We'll be on Thursday at our normal time of 10:30 p.m. with the repeat airing Saturday morning at 7:30. And you can always get the latest episode of our show and watch it right on the front page of our website, 24/7 at foxsportsoutdoors.com. And very important, right below that, you can click on past episodes and more video here, and you can see all of the episodes that you missed and lots of product and how-to videos as well. From Lake Guntersville, Alabama, until next week, I'm Barry Stokes. Be safe, have fun. Bye-bye, y'all.